What is up, everybody? This is Recap and Rewind. I'm JLAG and I'm here with
NBEA.
And this episode is recapping and reviewing Westworld Season 2, Episode 2. And it's called Reunion.
So we do see a lot of reunions this episode.
Yeah, a lot of people.
This was
together.
Honestly such a good episode. It was so satisfying because we got to see a lot of explanations.
Yeah.
Like, they're answering a lot of questions.
Like, this is what I would like to call a build-up episode.
But in a really good way,
in a good way.
Yeah, it was like really good.
I think the one thing about Westworld, especially Westworld, is we get so much action and so much like fantasy, and we love to see these great lines and like these robots that come into life or whatever, but we don't get a lot of like explanation. So this coming in the second episode, it really explains a lot of the things that we had questions about even season 1.
And the world is self-contained, right? Like, we've only ever seen Westworld on its own, and this one really literally took us out of Westworld.
Exactly.
We finally got to see like the real world.
Right.
And
so like,
it was
why
really
they're connected,
so exciting.
Because that promo like threw me the F off.
Yeah.
Because I was like, she's coming back. She's out. Nope, she's not.
So don't forget, guys, stick around for the ending because we are going to go through our recap roundups, our best moments, our best lines, and trust me, I got a few because this episode was so epic.
Epic AF. Yeah. Enjoy the podcast. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe on the channel.
And let us know how we're doing, guys. We really want to know like if we're on point with this Westworld recap. So let us know in the comments below, and if we're not on point, then let us know too.
Please
just be nice.
Yeah, be nice about it. Okay. All right, let's do this.
Let's go.
So, as we've mentioned before last episode, this is a hard one to kind of chronologically talk about because timelines are crazy.
All over the place.
Thanks a lot, Chris Nolan, Nolan brother.
And I think that a lot of the recaps that I've been reading too, they're all over the place too, because like they don't know how to like break the episode down without giving you the ending away at the beginning, and how do you explain this properly where like you're understanding it too. So we sort of have to talk to each other offline before we start to be like, wait, how are we breaking this down? Because we don't want to go through every minute detail either. We really want to analyze and like discuss between ourselves too. So we want to give that time, without diving into like all the little scenes. But we're gonna do our best to like break it down. It was very confusing. I love it, but it's confusing.
So we're going to try to do like all the past stuff first, then go to the future stuff next, and then wrap up the ending just because they always intertwine the past and the present like right at the very end. So let's start off with Dolores showing up.
Again, Dolores and Arnold are together in the beginning. This time, there's like flashy lights and ish, and I'm like, they're not in that like dungeon room. Right. They're like somewhere. Yeah. She's wearing like some like on point like outfit.
She's looking good.
And they're outside, like they're literally like in the outside world.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's like their condo or something.
Right.
And then he's like, and she says like a line. What does she say? She's like,
she
it's
says,
like a world of splendor.
Yeah, she's just like in love with it. She's like very much like Ariel from Little Mermaid. She's like, what is this world? Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Like, it's just like the lights are beautiful. I don't think I could ever like not get used to this. And Arnold has this very pessimistic
he's very cynical
in this world.
He's like you get used to this.
Yeah,
like,
he's
you
like,
get used to the things.
He's like, you're very different. Like you don't like the only.
Do you think he was in love with her?
You know what? We can get to that, but I don't think it's necessarily that he was in love with her. I think that there's a lot of connection between her character and how she was built and how he cared for her, and his relationship with his son who died.
It's true.
Because I think that he mentions the son.
He does. He's like, the way you see the world is like my son's
Charlie,
like perspective, and like it's such a beautiful way of seeing the world.
Like seeing like the innocence of the world.
Yeah, but also she's not a real person, so like.
Right, but it's almost questioning whether or not he. Because at this point in time, I'm assuming that Charlie dies, right? Because the son dies.
because like later when he like they go out, he's like, I'm building this for my family, so like I can be closer to them. So like still at that point, like he's building a house for his son and his wife.
So he still sees this like, but maybe just because they're away from each other so often, he's kind of like inserting this idea of like an innocent child within Dolores. Yeah, and like her seeing that world that way. Like he didn't create like this fierce like queen of a person to like be his companion. He could have chosen a Maeve who was like sassy and fierce, but instead he chose Dolores to be this like kind and open-minded and like there's a lot of childlike innocence with like the first iteration of Dolores, right? So there must be a good reason for that.
So as he's talking to her in that room,
right,
we hear like Anthony Hopkins' voice. We don't see him. Yeah. We see like the reflection of his young self.
Yeah, they can pay him.
And then he was basically like, let's go, like starting the party, whatever. Right. But they mentioned that like they're not going to use her right now. They're going to use another host or another person.
So there's an obvious very like shift, or like there's a split between how Robert felt about Dolores and how Arnold felt about Dolores, right? Even from the beginning, like Ford is saying she's not ready. I don't know why you're so like connected to her, like, or I don't know if it was the other way around. I think Ford was like, just send her out, like she's fine, and Arnold was the one that was like, she's not ready, and like he's like, I don't know why you care about her so much. Like this affinity that you have for Dolores is like really like concerning. So even back then there was like this idea that like Arnold saw them in a certain way and Ford saw them in a certain way. So that was really interesting. Even in those few moments that we get to hear Anthony Hopkins' voice, we get a little understanding.
We always knew there was a disagreement, right? Yeah. Because we did see that scene in season 1 where like they were fighting when she saw them fighting. So there was always that difference between the two. But anyway, so what they're alluding to is like this party.
Yes.
They're going to this big like investor party for Westworld. Essentially, they need investors, they need money, and this is where we see Logan.
Yes. So this sequence was amazing because it shows Logan, who was the guy from last season. He comes back through and he basically explains that he's got a lot of money. His dad has a lot of money and he's the one who procures new investments. Yeah. So he sat down with someone from Westworld, the spokesperson from Westworld, and a character that we know as to be a host. Right. She is the woman who gives you the black and white hats. Right. In the beginning, she is the woman with the crown in the current world who's helping Dolores blow people up.
So they're there. They're like, come, like this is like whatever. We'll give you a sample or something. They said to him.
Like we'll show you
and
a showroom.
He's like, okay. So he walks in. There's like a room full of people, like beautiful people. Yeah. There's like whatever. Like it's like a party. And she's like, see if you can spot like the person, the host. Yeah. And like, sure enough, like the whole room was like everyone. They were all hosts, and he like is so freaking shocked and like like mind blown.
It was so beautifully like laid out because it starts off with him kind of going around the room and seeing these people acting like humans, and I don't even think he books it. He's like, oh, this is gonna be fun or whatever. He's trying to figure it out, and then he looks straight at her and he's like, no way. And then he kind of zeroes in on her and realizes that she's the host, and then the whole room freezes, and then he realizes
I love everyone when they do that, when they freeze the room. It was so
amazing.
Creepy.
I was like, this is so cool. And then she's like, welcome to Westworld.
Yeah. And one of the interesting things that I think you have to take away from that scene though is the fact that he was so surprised, and he says like, we aren't ready for this, or we weren't ready for this. We weren't here. Which means that like the world that they live in, whatever year you want to think it is, they weren't necessarily that advanced yet. Yeah. So whatever Westworld is, they have taken a huge leap in like technology and whatever to get to where they are. So that's like a big like hint too, I think. Right. Alluding to like the world and like these like hosts
and how advanced they've gotten.
And how advanced they are,
quickly. So then it talks about Logan's invested, or he's like into
turned
it.
on because he like has an orgy with like 5 hosts.
Right.
Like literally, like that's.
And I think at one point in time, Dolores even sees her like cleaning up or whatever, like the other girl.
Yeah, the girl's like done like screwing, and she's like,
she's like, that could have been me.
Like, I enjoyed that though.
So we're gonna, like I said, stay in the past, and we're gonna cut to another scene, the next kind of like sequential scene where we see Logan's father show up to the park itself.
So we don't know that he's Logan's father just yet, but like we see the park, we see Dolores, we see William in the park. They
start the loop,
and then like you see the helicopter coming overhead, everything freezes, and then like this man with like this accent comes through,
right?
And he looks very like kind of casual, but I'm like, it must be his dad at this point because like who else is it going to be?
Right.
Like why is William convincing this person? You know what I mean? So then, we hear that like he wants to buy it.
So he does.
William wants to buy it.
William wants to buy it, or he wants to invest in it. And the dad is like, I don't see the draw in this. Like this is all about like futuristic stuff. I'm not.
He's like, it's just people having fun with their own like selves. Like what's the point?
It's like this place has like 3 years tops. Like it's not that special. Yeah. And William is quick to remind him about something that we're actually experiencing in our current world, which is data mining and how these hosts are going to be recording the information.
Everything is
from
recorded.
People.
And it was the first time where like you hear William like really evil too, because he was like
diabolical.
Yeah, he was like, they're gonna come here, they're gonna be their most truthful selves, they're gonna be so open and so honest. They think that we don't judge them, we don't see anything, but like they'll think that.
Yeah.
And like meanwhile, like they're recording everything and they have information on everyone, which is like huge marketing like advantage. Yeah. Because like everyone's freaking secrets.
And not even that, it's like top tier people, right?
Yeah.
Like it's people who are
like have
power
the richest
and
people
money.
in the world.
So it's even better. Like imagine selling that.
He was so evil in that moment. I was like, oh wow, like you really
that's
hear
business minded.
It is.
Like damn,
but like
I would do the same thing.
You've never seen William like that before.
That's true.
Because season 1, William was just like a little cowboy man.
He was
he was just so innocent.
But the question that I have is like, this is, I think, one of the moments where we see him start to turn and change from what we experienced with him, like falling in love with Dolores season 1 into the person that he 100%. Is now. And I don't remember what was the moment that kind of stopped him from getting there. I think something happened in this season finale in season 1 where he realizes how much of robot Dolores is. Like he can never go too far with her, right? I think that's what happens. And then he kind of just gets sad. He's like, I guess I'm going to marry that girl.
Yeah.
Like the girl in the real world or whatever. So that's kind of what kind of
I feel like there's something more to that story.
I think that
there has to be something more that happened between the two. The
question that I have, and like to your point with this particular scene, seeing him like be a little bit more cunning and a little bit more diabolical, it makes me wonder whether or not he was so desperate to have this place that he'll come up with literally anything just so he can like have her and have this world. Like he's obsessed with he's so obsessed with it that like maybe he's like, okay, in order for you to invest, like this is what we have to do.
It's true. I mean? And like a part of me really wants to believe that, because I think a part of me really wanted a love story at the bottom of like all of this. Yeah. I really wanted to believe that like he loved her so much that like he bought this freaking park with her. Yeah. And like her whole kind and whatever. Right. But like after watching this episode, I felt like that was less likely, because I'm like, damn, like, and he seemed like he was over her too. And maybe this was all just like a money grab for him. Yeah. I don't know, but that sounds so like shallow.
It's
like
really hard to see.
He seemed like he was a bigger character than that, you know?
I would love to see how that all unfolds.
But maybe she broke his heart along the way and we haven't seen that scene yet. Like, right. You know, we don't know.
I think he did kind of, right? Or she did
but like in another way, maybe. I don't know.
A different way. All right. Anyway, so there's that scene. And so I guess at that point in time, the dad decides to invest.
He's convinced. Yeah.
Like, true. He actually says to William at that point, to like what we were saying, like he's like, damn, I never saw that. Yeah. Like, I never saw that you could be that person. Yeah. So he was like shocked.
Savage.
And then it cuts to we'll talk about the retirement party.
Yeah. So then we get to see the dad. Yes. Right.
So this is years later, and it shows Dolores playing the piano. So she's like, you know, kind of like the guest host or whatever at this retirement party. And William is there. And the gag is, so is his wife and his kid.
What?
His kid even actually goes up to Dolores and like introduces herself. And
she's like, Mommy?
She's like, hello?
Mommy, is that you?
But it's not. So then she sees the wife. She sees the kid and she kind of just like freezes. Mm-hmm. And then...
because she does recognize him, right?
She does kind of recognize him, but like, it's amazing. Like, I love the way that Evan Rachel Wood plays it, because like you don't need words. I know. You don't know like what these robots are like meant to feel, but you see it in her eyes. Though.
That's
and
the thing. Like, they can do whatever they want for you as a human being. You're watching it and you're adding your feelings to her.
Exactly.
Like, you are.
You're like, wow, girl, you feel some type of way.
Because they could tomorrow be like, no, we were just like shooting a close up of her face. Like, that's it.
Exactly.
You're adding those feelings to her, and that's why the show is like really freaking amazing.
Like, they're like, Evan Rachel Wood, like, do it with just your eyeballs that you like knew him from the past. Like, that's it. Yeah. That's all she can. That's her. Like,
so she sees him. Whatever. He has a family. Cool. Then,
and
like,
he like dismisses her. He like at that point
doesn't
in time,
like glitch out when he sees her. Yeah. He's not like impressed or anything.
He's like, don't worry, like they're not gonna run away. Yeah. Like, he's talking to the dad and he's like, it's not a big deal. I just want to like have them come to like help host the party or whatever.
Yeah.
So she's just like a tool at this point.
Yeah. Then we see the dad come through and he's like, this is like my retirement housewarming party. He's like, it feels like a coronation or something.
Right.
Why did he say that?
I think he was just like, more excited about like the way that things were going to go. But he does allude to the fact that he doesn't have a lot of time. Because he's like
coughing.
I'm dying. Like, basically, he's like, we don't have the luxury or whatever. So it was so obvious.
So in that conversation, just quickly, William does allude to something that they've been working on, or like, don't worry, like it's coming. Something's coming where like it's going to save this man, I guess. Like, I don't understand like what he's trying to
I don't know if it's necessarily that it will save him, but it's more just look at what we're planning to do. This is what's going to happen to make this world.
And like I said, I would freaking lose my ish if like somehow in the world they created you and that you were everlasting in that world. Like you could not die, or like maybe you die but like your host, they create a host version of you or something, and like you live forever. You're like eternal.
Your conscious
something.
Something. I mean, that the real question is what they're mining this data for. Is it only just to get information on people, or is it to create consciousnesses of people?
I don't know.
No. You're like, I don't know.
But that's what it was alluding to, like some sort of I don't know what it was, but he was just being all like sneaky. I'm like, what do you got in that park like, though? Like hiding. Like what's going on?
Man, I just got chills just thinking about like what could happen at the end of the season.
So we also do see Logan there.
Yes. So at one point in time, like later on in the party, Dolores just like walks out on her own and she like looks into the sunset. No, it's nighttime. Yeah. She like looks into the water.
Yeah.
And Logan is like, oh yeah.
He was like, what was he doing?
He was doing like, I guess like high level drugs.
High level heroin.
Yeah, like techie drugs. So he's like lying on the thing, and so we find out that he didn't die.
Yeah, he didn't die.
So that's good.
He made it out, but he became an addict.
Right. He became like this sad addict who like is a bit of a failure. Clearly, his dad is like, get away from me. You're like a loser or whatever, because the way things ended with him in the past with William already showed that he kind of gave into all of his devices and couldn't be like a leader. And William like took over. So that was kind of interesting to see him like this sad character, and how he even talks to Dolores saying like, oh wow, he brought you down here just like gloat, or kind of like that's so typical of him. Like it's really interesting to hear this side of William that we really didn't know until these past couple episodes. Like, damn, he's savage AF, like for real. So then it just shows Logan, and then that's it. Right? Like that's the end of that scene. So let's move to the present world, and let's talk first about Dolores and Teddy's storyline, and her squad. And her squad. So this kind of continues on with her finding whatever she found last episode and taking Teddy there. So
because Teddy's questioning himself. He's like, what's going on? Like, why are we doing all these things? She's like, I'm gonna take you right to like,
I'm gonna show you
I'm gonna show you everything.
So she takes him down to this bunker,
the background,
and they kick the door down and they show him a tablet of like all the times that he basically
like his
died.
Script, all the photos that like he's been dead like how many times,
and he freaks out. He freaked out because he's like so simple, right? Like he's like probably the most simple character, and he's just like glitching. He doesn't understand what's happening, so he's like the one of the guys who like fix the host, he like had to show him the tablet, and he's like
it's weird though, because like his reaction is so different from everyone else's. Like everyone else really like just woke the F up, like like Maeve, freaking Dolores, even like Maeve's like man, like they all just woke up, and like Teddy's having a really really hard time.
But here's the thing, I don't think that Maeve's man like saw the tablet. I think he still has a mental purpose where he's like, I'm dedicated to Maeve. So like that's
no matter what, that's my like
no matter what, that's like what I'm driven by. Whereas Dolores is really trying to like show Teddy like this is everything, the new world and this is how you have to behave. I don't think that it makes sense to give it to Teddy, because poor Teddy, like what is he gonna do? So but anyway, she's trying. So she tries to kind of like awaken him.
That's
and, like,
interesting
let him
too, that like she's down to awaken him like completely, whereas like May is more focused on like her journey and not really like showing her guy everything. She's just like following her.
Right. I mean, I think she would be willing to do it if she had the time and the purpose she had the time, to do it, but like she's like on a mission now, so I don't know. I just feel like it is interesting to see like her try to wake up Teddy, because like what's the point?
Yeah.
Like
and so Dolores's main objective is basically to get an army, because she needs like a lot of people to like go up against like the humans or whatever.
Right.
So that's like her main mission. So like once they leave that bunker, they
so before they leave the bunker, they see what is he called, like the commando or something. She sees one of like the army people.
Yeah.
Who's already like been dead.
Confederado.
Yeah. And she gets the guy, the fixer, to wake him up. And so he wakes up, and then he like starts off to go back to his crew, and they follow him. Like that's how they decide to find like the rest of the army.
Right.
So then they're on their like little merry way, and then we cut to
like, why can't she just convince him to like follow her? Like that's what I don't get.
I don't know.
I think you asked that yesterday too. You were like, but doesn't she have the power to like just tell them to do something?
Just tell them to do something?
Like Maeve, right?
Like, yeah.
That's what I don't
That's
get.
what I thought the power, like, yeah, the question that I had was like, Maeve has the power to like snap a finger.
Yeah.
I would think that Dolores would have the same. But who knows?
Unless she doesn't know that she can do it yet.
Maybe she doesn't know her own power.
Yeah.
Or maybe she's thinking that like this is a more deep-rooted way of doing it. Like trying to convince them versus... you know, like just forcing them to do it. You know what I mean? So that's really interesting too, because I think that between Maeve and Dolores, while we can't say one is better over the other, because both of them are doing things that you shouldn't do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. So like Dolores is trying to convince people. Maeve is trying to just like press buttons and like turn people on.
Yeah.
But then also like Dolores is like a little bit more authoritarian, whereas Maeve is a little bit more like follow your heart kind of like mindset. Yeah. So it's very interesting to see like that fact that the writers gave them both very conflicting like approaches. Yeah. So that's really, really interesting. Anyway, so speaking of,
it cuts to a crazy scene.
One of the most interesting scenes.
You know, finally this interaction with Dolores and Maeve.
Right. They see each other at the crossroads.
They see each other, and Dolores is like, so Dolores and Maeve see each other.
Right.
And I was like so excited. I'm like, oh my god, like what's
this is
happen?
what you wanted.
This is what I wanted. Because there is tension. Like Dolores is like, hey, like we're gonna like do the rebellion, like come through with us, like come through Hope.
You're free now.
And Maeve's like, no, like who are you though? Yeah. Like what makes you like the leader of like this whole thing? Like why am I gonna follow your path? And then she was like, if you are like, you know, advocating like freedom and like free will, then like you're gonna let me pass.
And then Dolores
like without a
like,
fight, and she's like, "Oh, okay, true." She's like, "I gotta let them pass." Lets her go. Yeah.
So that's the first major interaction between the two of them, because we've been wanting this for such a long time. It's not going to be the last 100%, but I think it was really interesting to even see them in firelight, like the way that this like fire was kind of like in between the both of them. It's like this slow burning kind of like really interesting imagery to see that it's just the beginning of like this war between the robots. Possibly, you know, potentially, or you know, this passion that they both have for their causes. You know, they both have their man backing them up. Yeah, they have like, you know, not the same equal crew right now, but I think it'll be really interesting to see where they take both of the characters. Like I said, they both have conflicting purposes, but also like you can't say one is better over the other. Like who's to say at this point in time whose way is better? Because right now Dolores's purpose is just to find something
totally different. And like Mabel wants to find like her daughter, so like it's just
but like once they accomplish that mission,
like what happens then exactly next? So, or like when you get to that moment and it's not what you expected, like what happens?
Right. I want to see what they're gonna do with May first, because I feel like
she might not get her
I do feel like Dolores's like through line is a little bit more straight, because she's kind of like even more woke. She's had more experience like living in the real world. And she's attached to the main
storyline too, right?
Exactly. So I just feel like seeing her storyline is like a lot more continuous, whereas like Maeve might taper off after a bit of time. So let's cut to the Man in Black, because he had a bit of an interesting storyline as well. So this is William in the future, and he is still trying to find his way out, I guess. Like this is his goal as well. Yeah. This is his game, essentially, according to Ford. So he finds his friend, hanging from a tree with like a bunch of hosts. I
think his name's Lawrence. It's like the guy from like season 1.
Yeah. He was like his sidekick.
Yeah.
So he finds him, and then he rescues him, and then he says, okay, we got to find a crew of people. We need to find an army. So he helps him find this little town, and he sees this guy. Was he from season 1?
Yo, he's from Breaking Bad.
I know he's from Breaking Bad.
That guy's amazing.
But like that's what I mean. Like he was only in there for like 2 minutes.
I don't think he was
in
I don't
season
think
1?
he was even in season 1. Yeah. I was reading a couple of recaps and they were like, "What the hell?" Like
yeah,
that was
came
it.
Out of nowhere.
Maybe he'll come back. Like maybe they'll bring him back to life.
It was really.
I cannot imagine them hiring that actor for like a little 2 minute scene.
Seconds,
like that's crazy.
But it was amazing. So he has this whole storyline about like living in the past and like being rooted in like having roots, right?
As a child or something. Like, boys, the lines were epic.
I was like, I'm so confused right now.
Yeah.
But I think I think it's supposed to speak to like William and like who he is as a person and finding like who he is. I think there are moments where Ford is trying to almost like tell him because he wrote this story for him, right? We have to remember that every person that he's encountering right now is trying to give
William
him a
lost
message.
His way, like along the way he lost himself. So like
well, clearly he did, right? He went from a white hat to a black hat. So we know that like he turned at some point in time.
Yeah, so maybe Ford trying to help him. Like
I think that's what it is. I think at the end of the day, you know, with like, you know, they bring up Ford quite a bit of times, even though he's dead.
Yeah.
And, you know, William's frustrated that he's like in this game, but he's like, okay, I guess he wants me to play it this way because he wants him to learn a lesson. What's the point of a game if it's not like learning something from it? And Westworld was supposed to do that.
It's interesting because you're saying that too now, because when William does get hurt, he goes into the bar and he grabs a first aid kit from like, the wall. Yeah. And he even says, he's like, I know this is technically cheating.
Right.
So even into him, the man in black, like he is playing a game right now. Like he's totally in the game and he's playing Ford's game right now.
The stakes are a little higher because you can die, but I think he's trying to figure out, I think this is going to be the first time in a very long time that William's coming to Westworld and he could learn something finally.
Right.
Because I think
every other time he was so like used to it.
He was lost and he was, you know, he
knew what to expect.
Re-exploiting Dolores and, you know, he just didn't care. He wanted adventure. He wanted to just beat the game.
Yeah.
And he kept beating the game.
Yeah.
So now he's getting closer and closer to something better, like finding himself again, maybe. So that'll be really interesting to see finding himself. Or a different version of himself.
Yeah.
Like a robot version of himself.
Robot version. So right at the end with the Breaking Bad guy, they basically like him and his whole army just shoot themselves.
Right. So
like
that's
cutting
a great
back to that scene,
go about it.
They shoot themselves.
He essentially says to him, he says, you're supposed to do this alone.
Yeah.
Like Ford said, you're supposed to do this. We can't do this. We can't help you. You can't have an army.
Which questions why he has Lawrence with him, but like maybe it's just because like he needed a friend.
He's a sidekick, so he doesn't go crazy or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, they all literally like hold a gun to their heads and they blow each other up.
Yeah.
And then the guy like kills himself too.
Yeah.
And he's like, damn it.
Yeah.
So essentially that was like a failed part of his mission.
Yeah.
This episode. So now he needs to just move forward alone with Lawrence to find this next mission, this next thing, this next destination. So then we'll cut back to the final portion, which is Dolores and William.
Yeah.
So this is going back to the past, and it shows William turning Dolores on.
Not like
physically.
Not like her mechanics, not like her vagina.
So he turns her on, and he just gives her he has like a whole spiel with her, and he says,
I was like heartbroken by the way.
So talk to us about it. Why did you
so
feel
he
heartbroken?
basically looks at her and he's like, I can't believe I ever fell in love with you.
So tight.
Like he's like, I know like what you are now. He's like, it's not real.
Yeah.
I'll never fall for it or whatever. And I was
and
like,
the crappiest thing is like she's looking blankly, right?
Yeah.
Like you know she's recording this.
You know she's recording it because now she's remembering it.
But she's not
understanding
what's happening, right? Like she's not like true. I'm sorry about that.
No, she's not responding.
She can't say anything, right? Like, and he knows that he doesn't want her to speak. You know, like that's the thing about their relationship. If you want to talk about their relationship,
but like, did she love him though?
You know, like it's always one-sided because he can control what she says and what she does. So 29:30. So I just think it's really interesting to see even that, you know, that power shift between the two of them and how that might have changed over time. You know?
I think it's not the power shift. I think the fact that he gave up, like he was like, I'll never love you. I never did love you.
Right.
I was like, I lost like all hope because like I legit thought like he was gonna like, you know, ride off in the sunset with her. Like that was it. Like.
But then you question why and how and logistics, right? Like there's so many things.
There's so many other scenes, and they're so good with telling the story, but telling it in pieces.
Right.
And so there's a big chunk of, I'm sure, their history that we're gonna get to see that we haven't seen yet.
I was more heartbroken than angry at him. I think it was more just like, that sucks that like he kind of has come to this conclusion that she's just a nothing to him. Yeah, I was just sad about like how everything kind of went and how he just doesn't see her as like a person anymore. It's just really depressing. So then he kind of says to her, I have this thing that I want to show you that's going to change that's going to change the world. Or
I don't know if it's changing the world or like just he's just talking about this thing that he's building and like it's this mega thing.
I need to show you this thing.
And like it's not his penis. He's like literally like, I'm gonna take you somewhere and like show you this like huge thing.
So he takes her to like the edge of a cliff, like outside of Westworld.
Yeah.
And he's like, isn't it beautiful? Yeah. Isn't it grand? And it's just like a whole
and it's like again like the construction thing happening. So I was like, boy, like we've seen this shot before. Like what is it?
Yeah. So
I hate when they do that. Like Ford used to do that all the time. He's like, look at what I'm building. It's like a church. Like I'm like, but what?
But what is that?
We're not gonna know until like episode 10 anyway. So stop like pointing to it.
So Dolores is like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, she's like not impressed.
Yeah, so she's like turned off. And
because he basically said, I don't love you anymore.
So then it cuts to the future state, and it shows Teddy and Dolores roll up to that same exact spot.
Yeah.
And so
it's funny because sorry. So like then, she says it.
She says what?
She's like, that stupid idiot.
No, she doesn't say stupid idiot. She says an old friend was foolish enough to show this to me. It is a weapon, and it's a weapon that's going to like destroy them all. Yeah. Essentially.
I'm gonna use it to destroy them.
So the real question is, what does weapon do?
I don't know.
What are our theories? So I think you were kind of on the right track, and I'm sure there's like a million theories out there right now. So let's throw out some of our theories
about what this
weapon could be. I think it could be data. I think it could be like an expose for what the world is to like blow it up. I think it could be, we were just talking about it this episode, like clones of people who are being created right now, who are going to be sent off into the world as their versions of themselves. And I think that'll start disrupting so much of the real world too.
And I think it's probably already happened, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's already happened slowly. And I'm thinking maybe those drone hosts have something to do with it too. The idea that there's like these secret bunkers under this world that like nobody else knew about.
Right. I know.
I think he was building a bunker. That's probably what they were like showing. And I think they're probably building like clones of people there.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like I don't know what else it could be.
Like I want to know what
like
he would have said.
Missile?
Like no. What he would. Yeah. Exactly.
Like, you know.
Like when she said weapon, like I didn't think like a bomb or anything. No. Like the first thing I thought was like it must be something. Right? Yeah. Like in the grander sense of things, but yeah, I'm trying to think of the one thing that he would have told past Dolores as like, just as an FYI, like this is what I'm doing up in here, right? Yeah. Like I'm trying to think of like what he would have said as young William to Dolores.
We've seen that though.
We haven't seen it, but I'm trying to like imagine like what it is, because we're gonna probably find out about it next episode, if not like the episode after, because they're right there, like they're right in front of it. So it's just trying to figure out like what that is. What do you think it could be?
I think it's like probably cloning people. Yeah.
Cloning people and like injecting them into the real world. Yeah. Yeah. I think that makes the most sense. Yeah. I think that is the most disruptive thing.
Exactly. And I think that lends hugely to like Dolores' plan of like, you know, injecting them into the world, and like they're going to take over. Yeah. And they're hiding essentially, right? So like nobody knows who the real host is. Right. And that's always sort of been what, like they always, you know, hint to that. Like, do you even know that they're a real person? Like, who's the host? Who's the real person? Like,
the gag would be is if she took all the hosts that she's already killed, like the one or the investors that have been killed in that one night, and she redid them and said like, oh, now they're being rescued, like. Let's rescue them all. So she's gonna like get everyone to rescue them. This could go
so many ways. I don't know, but apparently,
because like I'm trying to think about how in Jurassic Park do they get the dinosaurs off the island to get to them to New York? They literally like sedate them and like send them over. So I'm like, what could they do to these people to like send them over? They would have to be like stealth enough to like get them over across.
So apparently there's a sequel to Westworld, and I think it's called like Freedom World or something. I don't know what it's called.
Sequel?
There's a sequel to that film that came out like all those years ago. And in the sequel, the plot is clones. in the real world.
Okay, got it.
So people are hinting that like it could be taken from that a little bit and like jumping off that idea and maybe going with that. So
and I don't say I'm so down for that. I think that's amazing.
I think it makes the most sense, guys. Honestly, like I don't. If it was anything else, I don't know if I would kind of be convinced by it.
Yeah.
You know,
that's exciting to see how that's all going to unfold, because I think that by season 3, if they get a season 3, which I hope they do, it'll all be in the real world, you know, like outside of Westworld, and like, you know, to see kind of continuing on, because to your point, you know, Westworld, the movie, ended off probably in a certain way, and it ended off in the park probably, whereas this is going to like continue past it into the real world, which will be really interesting. Anyways, let's get to our
recap roundups. Best moment.
My best moment is when they freeze the room for Logan. I thought that was really cool. I thought it was just visually stunning to see the whole room just kind of freeze. Like you said, I love just like seeing how they have the control over all of the hosts at the same time. Like I just thought
it's really cool because like when they do it after with like Logan's dad and Dolores.
Yeah.
When you're looking at her hair is blowing in the wind.
Right.
But she's frozen.
Right.
Like it's so crazy.
It's crazy to see.
Like it's not that everything is frozen. Her hair is moving, but it's just like her. Oh
exactly.
Man, it's so cool the way they do it.
What was your best moment?
My best moment was Maeve and Dolores. Like their whole like interaction together. 100%. Just like I didn't think I was gonna get that at all. Like maybe at the end of the season I thought I would get it.
And when do you think that we're gonna see them again?
I don't know. Probably not till like they get
to their mission.
Or like at least Maeve like gets her daughter or doesn't get her daughter. Like I don't know if there's a point of them meeting before that.
Do you think she's gonna get her daughter?
I don't think she's gonna get her daughter.
Yeah. And I think it's better to like be.
I think the meaning of that journey, if she doesn't find her daughter, like is more like
powerful.
It's more powerful.
It's more compelling, for sure.
Because it's like hopeless dreams. It's like you get there, you've dreamed about this moment, and like it's not what it is. And now how do you survive? How do you live, or do you want to live?
Do you even want to live?
Right. WTF moment.
WTF moment.
My WTF moment was definitely all the alluding to this weapon. Like I have this thing, it's there. I built this thing. Like it's that.
What WTF?
So like, what
is
it? Like what's going on?
Yeah, totally. Mine is the Man in Black and the guy from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And like the fact that they
all
literally
killed themselves.
like I was like, yo, what is this?
Yeah.
Like it happened so fast, and I was like, this is crazy. And it just goes to show that like, you know, Ford is still alive and well, even though he's dead.
He's definitely implanted in all those things.
He's controlling everything. So that was really cool. And to see the Man in Black / William struggle through it, it's almost like I'm enjoying it, you know what I mean, as a viewer, because you know that he was such a bad guy that you're like, you don't get an army,
struggling
like
now.
You struggle because Dolores is gonna kick your ass.
MVP.
Speaking of, who's your MVP?
My MVP is Dolores.
Dolores.
I had a hard time with this one because I didn't know, like she is my MVP, but like it was such a jam-packed episode where I was like, there were so many good players in this episode.
Right.
I mean, she gets it because she did so much, first of all. Like, she did so much between, you know, helping Teddy, getting to Maeve, like all her stuff in the real world. Like, she killed it. Yeah, she's also my MVP. We didn't get to talk about it in our recap, but she also even like awakens an entire army. She tries to convince the Confederado people to like get up big
in
storyline that we missed,
and then and then she just like ends up just resetting them anyways. So she does convince them in the end, right? Like they do join her? No, they don't join her. They don't join her by choice. They join her because she forces them. So anyway, she gets an army. That's not good, Dolores. So that's exciting. Yeah. But it just goes to show, like, is she evil? Is she not evil? Is it like a little bit of both? Like, who knows? Like, she's a robot. How am I feeling these types of ways about a robot? I don't even know. LVP. My LVP, I'm gonna have to say the Man in Black. Not because like I disliked him, but I just feel like the way we saw him last season was like this hero, this like cowboy, and like now he's like really like flipping the switch, and like he is like getting dark, and I love it. I love that whole storyline. It was just like he was being like mean to Dolores. He's so mean. He mean to her. My LVP is also Young William. Young Willie. Young Willie. Because You know, like, I thought it was tight even seeing him married with kids and, like, you know, just knowing that he gave up on Dolores. And this episode just made me feel like, wow,
I can't believe that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I cannot in my soul believe that he gave up on her
so
and
hard.
That's the end of it. Like, I feel like something happened that we're not seeing.
Well, maybe that's the case. I'm sure the writing's in there, right? Yeah. They got it right. But, like, that's the thing. Like, right now, I'm not really sure where he's at. Even as young William, I'm not sure why he's doing what he's doing. Like, what his pull is. Like, is he really, like, secretly still in love with her? Is he actually heartbroken and he's reacting the way he's reacting as a man would, like, in his situation? I don't know. Like, he was in love with her last season.
That's what I'm saying. And I can't accept the fact that the two writers of the show, husband and wife, did not, at the core of this, put a love story in there somewhere.
But they did.
But, like, it can't be over.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And maybe it's a heartbreaking love story.
No.
Just because you're married doesn't mean it wasn't enough. Be good.
Yeah. It's not enough yet. Like, it might. That's how it's ended, but we got to see some more along the way, I guess.
Guys, give NB the story that she wants. And this the best line. What is your best line or best lines?
Oh my god.
Because there's so many. But choose one.
The best line. There was two, but they're kind of like together.
Okay, go.
So Williams, this is the only place in the world where you get to see people for who they really are, and if you don't see the business in that, then you're not the businessman I thought you were. Huge line, because like he's totally manipulating him too, and the guy's like, oh yeah, true, like let's invest.
He's like early Mark Zuckerberg.
I loved it. And then Dolores' like last line, like, it's not a place, it's a weapon. I'm gonna use it to destroy them. I was like, like chills, like crazy.
Yeah, such a crazy, like, yeah.
Their dynamic is just so crazy. Like,
I love it. Mine is when Maeve bumps into Dolores. Hey,
that was
I have the full script right up in here. So I think it starts off with Dolores saying, you know, you must be so filled with revenge, and Maeve says, revenge is just another prayer at their altar, darling, and I'm well off my knees. And Dolores says something along the lines of, we'll have to fight to keep our world. And Maeve says, and let me guess, yours is the only way to fight. You feel free to command everybody else. And then she turns to Teddy and she says, I know you. Do you feel free?
Yeah.
And I was like, ah!
Yeah, it was an amazing scene. Like,
it's the scene that
guys,
we wanted.
Like, the whole writing of this entire series, forget the episode, because the episode from minute to minute, beginning to end, every single like line that's been written is just so epic and so beautiful, and like everything means something, you know?
Right. I'm just really excited to see where this all goes. Like, season 2 is honestly like killing it.
They're
so
killing
hard.
It. Guys, like, I have to say, like, I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. This show is literally in my eyes like competing with the scale of like what Game of Thrones is doing for the world. 100%. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, the things that they're talking about in this show are just so epic. Yeah. And they're so like beautiful and like tragic too at the same time. Like, it's
and they're very current.
It's so and, like, gripping and so current. Speaking of current, anyways, I don't want to get into
it. Get off Facebook.
No. There is a timeline apparently of like what year it is right now in the world.
Scary. Maybe you'll find out next podcast, guys.
Stay tuned to our channel. Maybe you'll find out.
Yeah, let us know. So thanks so much for listening, guys. That was our podcast. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We want to know everything that you have to say about Westworld.
We want to know everything.
Tell us everything. I want to know all your theories. I want to just like talk about it. We can like talk about it during our next podcast. So make sure you guys comment
below, guys. Join the discussion for sure. Like, we want to hear what you guys are having to say about it. If we're on the right track, even with our theories.
Yeah.
Like, are we just crazy? Maybe.
Yeah. Let us know. Thanks for listening.
Bye.